Hi. Today I am going to try to do something that I haven't done before. As I mentioned in our last conversation about the sutra Ikosavarne Shakalyasya Rasvascha, it seemed to me a good time to uh, do something that might be useful both for people joining this channel recently and for those who've been here for a while, which is to go through the sutra that we just discussed. We discussed the meaning of it and so on. And if that's not fresh in your mind, you might want to go back and look at it again. But this time, I'm going to explain how each of the forms of the words in this sutra come about through the rules of the grammar in detail, in great detail. Because sometimes I've seen discussions of a sutra, and you get the overall gist of it. But that's what I'm going to try to do. And also this time I'm identifying the sutras not by their number in Ashtadhyayi or in Siddhanta Kaumudi, but by the video number that in which we discussed each of them at length earlier on. And the other thing this is trying to do is go a little way to making up what I cannot possibly do, which is replicate the day in and day out interaction between the student and the teacher, which is filled with all sorts of information and gives rise to a lot of this interweaving that I'm trying to demonstrate to you. So Ikosavarne Shakalyasya Rasvascha. So we'll start with the Padaparta. Iko asavarne Shakalyasya Rasvahacha. Iko asavarne Shakalyasya Rasvahacha. Now the first big issue is, what is ik? Ik. Well, the short answer is it's I-U-R-L. I-U-R-L. But the question is, how did we get there? So to get there, we have to go back, as I've said before, Aksharasamamnaya. It is so important to become as familiar as you can with the Aksharasamamnaya, because it is, in a way, the cipher to the whole grammar. And I certainly go back to it, and I think you'll find that when we get to some less straightforward Sunday rules, we're going to want them. So, no, that's not. Okay, I don't have it on a board, but A-I-Un Ruluk. A-I-Un Ruluk. A-I-Un Ruluk. That's all we need for the pieces of ik. A-I-Un Ruluk. But that's not really the answer. How do we get from the beginning of Aksharasamamnaya to ik? Well, A-I-Un Ruluk. Then we need to know about the halantyam, the final. A-I-Un, the first sutra of the Aksharasamamnaya, ends in n. The next one, Ruluk, ends in k. N and k are halantyam. They are final sutras, final consonants. Of course, there's something kind of recursive about that, because you wouldn't know what hala is, but it's what it means. So ik is I plus k. K is the final consonant of the second sutra. A, I, un, n, ruluk. So halantyam is important because it gives the name it. It does that by being elaborating on Upadeshe Janunasika it. Upadeshe Janunasika it, which is some ways is one of the absolutely foundational sutras, except it's not, because there are no Anunasika vowels in the grammar anymore. So in an Upadesha, sutras or Upadeshas, a nasally pronounced vowel gets the name it. Well, that's no use because we don't have them, except for one that's maybe kind of made up in Aksharasamamnaya. So, but the next sutra, halantyam, that's really important because that's saying the final hal or consonant is it, and it's referring to the final consonants of the sutras of the Aksharasamamnaya. So, a, I, un, n is hal, and it's also it. Ruluk, k is hal, and it's also it. Now, what is this it thingy? Well, in terms of the in terms of getting a, I, un from ik, the idea of it that we've just developed is crucial, because the sutra that creates what are called pratyahara is adirantyena sahita. So halantyam was video 49. This is video 38. Adirantyena sahita. The first along with the final it. Final it. What does that mean? Final it. Well, if we have a, I, un, n is it, it's halantyam. Ruluk, k is also it, and it's halantyam, or halantyam, and it's also it. So there's two its, two consonants, but the k is the final one if we say ik. So I, u, ruluk, all of the adirantyena sahita is saying that when you have a vowel, an ach, and a consonant, which is a final it, then you are describing the first along with the last, meaning all in between. So ik is a, I, u, ruluk, a, I, un, ruluk, but n drops away, which is what we're going to explain in the next sutra. So by halantyam, which emerges from Upadeshe Janunasika it, we know that a final consonant in a sutra of the Aksharasamamnaya gets the name it, which is all we need at the moment for adirantyena sahita, the first along with the final it. So that means a, I, un, ruluk. That is what ik is to start with. Then the next point is that the n and k, the its, once they've done what I call their day jobs, they disappear. And how do they disappear? Video 49, tasya lopaha. Tasya lopaha, they get the name lopaha. And what lopa does for you is enter into video 31, Adarshanam lopaha. Adarshanam lopaha. What's lopa disappears. Poof, adarshanam. There's all sorts of interesting things we talked about in the video about this sutra, Adarshanam lopaha. What exactly does disappearing mean, and does it mean it was written? Well, as I recall, there are at least 4 kinds of disappearing. But what really matters is we now know exactly what ik is and how it got there. Ik is a, I, un, reluk. N and k are halantyam, they are it. They make the pratyahara, which is what we call these structures like ik. And thanks to tasya lopaha and adarshanam lopaha, they then disappear. So we now have the first, we won't, there's no need to go into the vibhakti here at the moment, although we will a little bit in a minute. So, iko, that's how we, ik is a, ik, it's shashti of ik. So the next word we have to deal with is asavarne, asavarne, asavarne. So we start exploring this by asking a savarne, not savarna, not a savarna. We're not in a savarna. A savarne, savarne is saptami of savarna. Saptami of savarna. We'll come back to that in a minute because it's important. But just to start with savarna, what is not savarna? What is savarna? So savarna is, in the 7th video, tulyasya prayatnam savarnam. Tulyasya prayatnam savarnam. Those which have the same places and efforts of articulation get the name mutually savarna. Those with the same places and efforts of articulation are mutually savarna. Now here's where we separate the wheat from the chaff. What are the places of articulation exactly? How do we know if they're the same or not? And what are the efforts of articulation? So I made 4 videos about, or several videos, maybe 4, about this on this topic. I didn't number them because back then I was thinking I would only number the videos that were explicitly discussing a sutra. But these are 3 and 4 videos after Tulyasya Prayatnam Savarnam because they're crucial to that. So let's look at places of articulation first. This is just brilliant. And this is not part of Ashtadhyayi. It comes to me anyway through Siddhanta Comedy. I believe it's considered preceding. In any case, and as we know, pronunciation or articulation was a separate Vedanga. In any case, this is crucial for the grammar, and it's not, I think, it's not often well described, if it's described at all. And it may look a little intimidating to start with, but it's great once you get it. For one thing, it's easy to remember. It's kind of musical, and it just packs a lot of information. So let's start with the first. We're just going to go over it quickly again because there are several videos about this. Akuha visarjaniyanam kantaha. Akuha visarjaniyanam kantaha. So the ku is a kvarga. That means kakagaganga, kakagaganga. Which is not per se it's not Aksharasamamnaya, but both structures occur in the grammar. So akuha, so ku is kakagaganga. Also, ku has u for it. U. The u in ku is it. It's not halantium, but it's it. Maybe it was nasally pronounced. I don't remember how they go for that. But you can always say that the knowledgeable ones say it's nasally pronounced. In any case, it's it. So akuha, there you have a kakagaganga ha, and Visarjani Anam, Visarga, have the place of articulation kantaha. And so it goes down the line. Ichu ya shanam talu. I cha-cha-cha-cha-nya. Ya sha talu. Rtura shanam murtha. Rtura shanam murtha. Lurtula sanam dantaha. Upupadmani anam oshtau. Tulips. Upupadmani anam oshtau. Nyamangananam nasikacha. What is that saying? Those letters, those sounds, nyamangananam, are both what they were under the, they're both the kanta, talu, so on, and they're nasika, anunasika. So they have two places of articulation, which is different than efforts of articulation, places. Edai toho kanta talu. Edai toho kanta talu. Now these diphthongs are kind of fun to experiment with yourself. You'll see how descriptive they are. A, I, or I, yeah. Odao toho, o, ao, kantatoshtam, kantoshtam, kantaha and oshtam, kantoshtam. Vakarasya dantoshtam. This is one that I have a sort of a fixation about. Vakarasya dantoshtam. Va is pronounced by danta, teeth, and lip. Dantoshtam, va. This matters to me because now it doesn't mean it's the only way of looking at it, but there are regional differences. My impression is maybe Orissa in particular, where va is taken as wa. It is va because it's dantoshtam, done and done. Jikva muliyasya, jikva mulam. Jikva muliyasya, jikva mulam. Nasika anuswarasya. Nasika anuswarasya. Now I have no idea at all why the order of those is switched around. Anuswara nasika is the place of articulation. Now, the efforts of articulation are a little bit more intricate, but very cool. And in addition to which, there are actually two different categories of efforts of articulation: internal efforts and external efforts. Of these, only the internal efforts are related to savarnahood. So this definitely comes into play because we have to make choices. Danentara tamaha, we will come to that. When we're substituting one thing for another, the one that is closest, the substitute closest to the one being substituted for is the right one. And so that means, what do we mean by closeness? Well, we mean by place and effort of articulation. If the rule calls for savarna, then only the internal efforts are relevant. If it doesn't, sometimes we have to bring in the external ones. So internal efforts of articulation are abhyantaraha prayatnaha. And again, I have a video on that, which is very interesting. That's 4 videos after Tuliyasya Prayatnam Savarnam. So next issue is asavarne, asavarne, not savarna, asavarne, saptami. Saptami has a special function in the grammar. When it's not being used for ordinary purposes, it means it refers to the preceding, or as we tend to say, when the thing in saptami follows. So we often say, asavarne achi pare, when a savarna vowel follows, a savarna or a non-savarna vowel follows. Asavarne achi pare. And this is thanks to a sutra we've discussed, Tasmin niti nirdishte purvasya. Tasmin niti nirdishte purvasya. That's sutra video number 33. And how does that work? Well, tasmin is saptami of tad. And in the grammar, when tad is used, not referring to something, not pointing to something, that, or then it is a way of identifying a vibhakti. So if they want to say something should be in saptami, it says tasmin. So tasmin iti, thus, nirdishte purvasya refers to the one preceding it. Again, as we end up usually saying asavarne achi pare when that thing follows. Then their question is, we talked about the sutra last time. We gave it as it's given, and orally as everything is. Iko savarne, what happened to the of savarna or savarne? Well, it went away. It was replaced by a purva rupam. It was replaced by the form of the preceding letter, and that was O. And the disappeared, and it was in writing memorialized, is how I put it, by avagraha. So eko savarne is the outcome of the sutra Engaf Padantadati, which is video 106. Engaf Padantadati. So when a word ending eng, when a follows a word ending eng, and eng is in pratyahara for aong, and ao, iko is o, so iko, the o of iko is eng, and a is hrasva a, so this rule applies, and engaf padantadati enjoins purva rupam, the one with the form of the preceding, in place of both the o and the a, which results in the o staying and the a going away. Now, just a couple of more points. So we've got iko savarne, asavarne, shakalyasya. Shakalya is a grammarian, clearly a very eminent grammarian that Pardini refers to often. And as I said in the last video, when he cites a grammarian, it's generally both to respect them and to say this thing is optional. But there are disagreements about that, which I discussed in the last video. So here we have Shakalyasya Mate. Shakalyasya is Shashti of Shakalya. What's interesting about that? Well, there is again a very special purpose in the grammar for Shashti when it's not doing any of its normal day jobs. And when we get to Karaka, we'll see that the Shashti has a very large number of day jobs, but when it's not, in the grammar, it means in place of. Shashti Sthane Yoga, Shashti Sthane Yoga, number 22 video. Shashti Sthane Yoga means in place of. So if this were Shashti Sthane Yoga, it would be in place of Shakalya, or possibly some part of Shakalya, but it's not. It's not. Here, it isn't. It's just, it's an ordinary use of Shashti pertaining to or belonging to. And what's understood is Mate in Shakalya's opinion. The other bit that I think is interesting to point out, how wonderfully comprehensive and precise the grammar is. The grammar makes a distinction between names that are just essentially letters. They're not the thing they represent. They're just a sound. So Shakalya in the grammar might often just be a word, but words don't have opinions. So there's exceptions for terms of the grammar in which they are what they normally represent. So the sutra which discusses that is 35, Svam Rupam Shabdasya Shabdasanya. A word form, a form, stands for itself and the one that it represents. I'll put that better next time. And then we have one more word here, Hrasvaha, and Hrasva is a Hrasva, short vowel, Hrasva. Where does Hrasva come from? Well, everything comes from somewhere in the grammar. So Hrasva comes from a wonderful sutra, 42, Ukalo Jrasva Dirga Plutaha. Ukalo Jrasva Dirga Plutaha. The sound U, which is Dirga U, is called Hrasva, Dirga, and Pluta. How is that possible? Well, I'll add this too. That's because when we apply this Sandhi Sutras that we've done, we know that all three U's, if you put them together, short, long, and prolongated, all come back to a Dirga U. As long as we don't count the Pluta as Pragrihya, but we'll pass on that. So the U of Kalo, Ukalo, the time of U, is actually U, and Hrasva, Dirga, Plutaha are three names. So there's another very cool and handy rule. Yatasankyam manudeshaha samanam. Yatasankyam manudeshaha samanam. Two lists of equal lengths are related in ordered pairs. How great is that? It's very great, because otherwise we'd sometimes have to do a lot of fancy footwork to sort things out, but we don't have to. For instance, ikoyanachi, ikahastane yan syat, I uruluk yaralava. two lists of orders pairs, so they are related two lists of equal length, so they're related in ordered pairs. That applies here in ukalo jarasvadirga plutaha too. So we know that short u is the first one in the list of hrasva dirga pluta. Dirga u is in the middle, and pluta u is the third, and that goes there. And if that isn't enough for our last sutra today, this is one of the sutras that's got a nickname, and it's the Kukutaruta Anukarana Sutra. Kukutaruta Anukarana Sutra. It's the cock crowing imitation sutra. Why cock crowing? Because it's ooh, ooh, ooh. Who says the grammar's dry? It's nonsense.